Hi everyone, I'm Danny Lacey and this is the Diary of an Entrepreneur episode 2, and we're talking from bedroom to boardroom, taking that next step. So when I started out in business, I was working from my mum and dad's shed pretty much at the bottom of the garden when I was a teenager, and I set up my DJ agency. And back then the thought of moving into big lush offices was nothing but a pipe dream. Cut to 20 years later, I was working from this very room at home, which is our spare bedroom, which became the office for Starter Video. And a moment arrived when I had a decision to make. And that decision was, we won a big contract with a new client, which meant that I needed to employ, we had money to employ staff, which we needed. But also, the decision was that I needed to no longer work from my office as our main office for the business because it wasn't professional. You can't invite clients round to meet with you, just pull up a chair next to the spare bed. So the decision was made to move into a new office. And I'll tell you all about that in a second. But why leave the comfort of that spare office? Because that's pretty much where most businesses start, if we're honest. There's probably people watching right now who are sat at their desk at the bottom of their bed or in their little box room with one window and magnolia walls, building that empire from the ground up. We've all been there. But when do you take that next big step into moving into a new office? What I would say from my experience is start looking right now. Don't wait until the moment is right. Start looking. Don't sign up for anything. You're not taking on an office right now, but you're getting into that mindset of looking, where to look, which are the best areas that give you the best transport networks, rail, motorways, airports, etc., etc. What's going to give you the best value for your money? So to start with, moving into a big city centre. So for me, I've got Leeds on my doorstep, but I decided that I wasn't going to rent an office in Leeds because it was just going to be way too expensive. So we've got an office in Wakefield, which is like Leeds' little sister city, and it's much cheaper, much more cost effective, and it's still close to those rail and motorway networks. So it made absolute sense for us to do that. But I didn't know that until I'd actually started looking around, doing a bit of research and looking into it. So even if you're working from your office at home, if you've got grand plans of building a business into something with staff and officers, start looking right now. Start thinking about it. Even go and have a look at some offices. You don't have to sign up. There's no law that says you have to sign up to an office just by going to view it. Go view offices. Get familiar with the kind of questions that you have to ask, and the responsibilities that come with signing up to a new office. So start that process now. It's good for networking as well because you meeting people who are either managing or own property. They may have other property that's more within your budget. They may also be willing to do you a deal. You might get chatting to somebody while you're looking at a property and just saying, look, we haven't got the money at the minute, and the conversation might go on, and they may end up offering you a year rent free just to get you started. So even if you're working from your office at home, start looking right now for an office. Look at the locations. My advice would be don't get an office in the middle of nowhere, especially if you're going to have clients coming out to you all the time. Make it easy for people to find you and get to you would be my biggest advice. For me, going from working here in this spare room 5 years ago to where we are at the minute was a kind of quite an interesting story. So a client of mine calls me on Christmas Eve, asks me if I can set up a TV channel for their business on Sky, and we got chatting, and they ended up just giving us an office in their building for free. We got a room, which was our first office, and it was just me and one other person, my first member of staff that I hired back in the day, but it was a free office in a big building, and 90% of our work at that time was for that particular client, but we were also looking after other clients and stuff as well. So that was technically our first office. And then we kind of outgrew that. The contract with that current client came to an end. But I knew this was happening like 6 months before. And I started looking around in and around Wakefield, in the smaller little towns and villages. And I started just looking. And then I came across this one property in Outwood, which is where we're based at the minute. Got chatting to the landlord, just explained the situation. Look, we haven't got a lot of money, but I'm thinking long term. We got chatting. He ended up offering us, I think it was 6 months free rent to start with. and then a massively reduced rental charge for the following 6 months, which gave us 12 months basically of time to start to really kind of generate more revenue and sales for the company, which meant we could afford to do that. And because I had staff at the time, it made absolute sense for us to do that. Going from your bedroom, your spare room at home, to an office comes with a lot more responsibility and cost, financial costs as well. So there's not only the rent. Even if you do get a deal, you're going to have to pay rent at some point. There's the business rates, which can be very expensive. It can be 40p in the pound on the rateable value of your of the office over the year. There are obviously tax relief available for small businesses, but just be wary. Business rates can be very, very expensive, and it's something that is often overlooked. And people get carried away with the, I really like that office. It looks beautiful. It's a mill with wooden beams and stuff, but they don't realise that they're actually going to get stung with a quite high amount of business rates. So think about that. You've got internet. Has it got a good internet connection? Most businesses these days need a good internet service provider. So look into that. Do your research. Rent. So utilities. We're lucky. The office that we're in at the minute, it includes all the utilities, the gas, electric. It's all included. All we do is we pay rent. Everything else is included. So can you find a property that has that benefit? If not, how much is it going to cost you for gas if they have gas, for the electric if they have electric, water, etc., etc. Ask those questions. Otherwise, they will sting you after you've signed the lease tenancy agreement. You've got health and safety responsibilities as well, depending on how big and how many people you've got employed there. Does it have all the right fire escapes? Does it have fire extinguishers and all the correct signs and posters that you have to have in a health and safety posters that you have to have in an office these days? Things that you're going to have to get used to, look into, and make sure that you are adhering to as a responsible employer and business owner. So have a think about that. The difference having an office makes is massive. You're more professional. It just feels more professional as a business owner. So going from my spare room to an office, the difference was just incredible. I was no longer sat at my desk in my jogging bottoms and a rough t-shirt. I was shirt, jeans, smart casual, and it just felt more professional. I just felt like there was more work getting done. Not that I was spending my time at home watching TV and Jeremy Kyle and all that nonsense all day. I was getting a lot of work done. In fact, I was putting in a lot of hours, but my day just felt more structured having that office. So it makes a huge difference. And just that art of negotiation and bantering and haggling, make sure you get into that. Some people are just too weak, I guess, and too scared to haggle and ask those questions. But you got to remember that some of these offices have been empty. Some of them can be empty for years and years and years, and they just want to get them occupied. So negotiate. Ask for free periods. So, ask for 12 months rent free, ask for 6 months rent free, ask for a reduced. If they're not willing to go down that road, then negotiate on actual price, half price for 6 months, half price for a year, or whatever it might be. You'd be surprised at how willing people are to negotiate with you and how open they are to deals. So make sure you're asking those questions, and don't just go for the first thing just because you've fallen in love with it. It's an office. It's not somewhere you're living. It's a different thing. You've got to have your business hat on. Find somewhere that's going to return you huge amounts of value financially. You don't want to go, you don't want to just take anywhere. You don't want to just live it. You don't want to work from a dump. You want the right working environment for you and your staff. So find that balance. Don't just go in there all guns blazing because it's a beautiful looking office and spend a fortune. Find that middle ground. It's all about finance. It's cash flow. Make sure you're getting that in there first. Yes, in 10 years' time, when you become the next Google, you can go and buy your own building and turn it into Silicon Valley. But right now, it's what's financially more cost effective for you and your business that then also delivers what you need from an office. So have all those things in mind. Hope you found that useful. Thank you for watching this episode of The Diary of an Entrepreneur. Do share with other like-minded individuals that you think might find the information that I'm sharing on the Facebook page. Do feel free to share, like and comment below. Give me your feedback over at facebook.com/Danny Lacey Business. And remember, failing every day is a massive part of your journey.